his first labor was slaying the Nemean Lion. Deep within the wild hills of Nemea, a fearsome lion terrorized the land. No weapon could pierce its golden fur, and its claws could shred through armor like parchment. Villagers lived in constant fear, for anyone who wandered too far from home never returned. Hercules, burdened by his sins but determined to redeem himself, set out on this dangerous quest. As he approached the rocky hills, he found signs of the beast's presence. Huge paw prints embedded in the earth and half-eaten carcasses strewn about. The air smelled of death. Determined to confront the beast, Hercules entered a dark cave. He had heard that the lion's den had 2 entrances, so he blocked one exit with a boulder to trap the creature inside. As his eyes adjusted to the dim light, he spotted the lion lying on a ledge, its golden fur gleaming like sunlight on polished metal. With a roar, the lion leapt at Hercules. He raised his bow and fired an arrow, but the shaft snapped harmlessly against the creature's hide. Hercules tried again using his spears, but the weapons shattered upon impact. Realizing brute strength alone would not be enough, he dropped his weapons and prepared to face the lion with nothing but his hands. The lion lunged again, its jaws snapping inches from Hercules' face. With unmatched speed and strength, Hercules dodged and wrapped his arms around the beast's neck. The lion thrashed and clawed, but Hercules held on, tightening his grip. Muscles straining, he forced the air from the lion's lungs. At last, it lay still. Victorious but bloodied, Hercules examined the lifeless lion. He knew he needed proof of this success, so he attempted to skin the beast, but his knife was useless against the impenetrable pelt. Frustrated, he pondered his options. Then, inspired by the creature's own savage nature, he used the lion's claws to cut through the hide. He returned to King Eurystheus wearing the lion's pelt as a cloak. The head rested atop his own like a helmet. When Eurystheus saw Hercules in the terrifying garb, he was so frightened that he forbade the hero from entering the city again. From then on, Eurystheus ordered Hercules to report his successes from outside the city wall. Thus ended the first labor. But it was only the beginning of Hercules' long and grueling path to redemption. Labor 2, slay the Lernaean Hydra. The swamps of Lerna were a place of dread. Dark, reeking waters stretched as far as the eye could see, and thick mists curled ominously around gnarled trees. It was here that the Lernaean Hydra, a monstrous serpent with 9 heads, made its lair. The creature terrorized the region, emerging from the depths to devour livestock and any unfortunate souls who wandered too close. Worse still, legend claimed that if one of the Hydra's heads was severed, 2 more would grow in its place. King Eurystheus hoped that this impossible task would end Hercules' quest for redemption. Undeterred, Hercules set off, accompanied by his loyal nephew Iolaus. As they approached the swamp, the air grew thick and foul, choking their lungs. The ground beneath their feet turned to black mud, making each step slow and laborious. Hercules scanned the murky waters, knowing that the Hydra would not be easy to find or defeat. Suddenly, a ripple disturbed the still surface of the swamp. Moments later, the Hydra emerged, its massive serpentine body glistening in the dim light. 9 heads writhed and hissed, each with fangs dripping venom. The central head, larger than the rest, gleamed with a sinister intelligence. Without hesitation, Hercules charged. Swinging his mighty club, he smashed one of the Hydra's heads clean off. But as the stories foretold, 2 new heads sprouted in its place, each hissing more fiercely than before. Hercules fought on, striking down head after head, only for more to grow. It seemed as though the beast could not be defeated. Venomous fumes filled the air, and Hercules began to feel dizzy. Realizing he needed a new strategy, he called out to Iolaus. "Bring fire," Hercules shouted. Iolaus, quick-witted and resourceful, grabbed a burning torch from their campfire. As Hercules severed another head, Iolaus pressed a blazing torch on the stump, cauterizing the wound. This time, no new heads grew. Together they repeated the process. Hercules severed the heads, and Iolaus sealed the necks with fire. The Hydra thrashed in agony, its monstrous form writhing through the swamp. But the two heroes pressed on relentlessly. At last, only the central head remained, the one said to be immortal. Hercules seized the Hydra's central neck in a crushing grip. With all his strength, he tore the head from the creature's body. He then buried the head deep beneath a massive boulder, ensuring that it could never rise again. Before leaving, Hercules noticed the Hydra's blood pooling around its body. He knew the blood was a deadly poison, so he dipped the tips of his arrows in it. These arrows would later prove invaluable in many of his future battles. When Hercules returned to Eurystheus and recounted his triumph, the king was stunned. However, Hera, ever determined to thwart Hercules, whispered to Eurystheus that he should not count this labor. Since Hercules had received help from Iolaus, the task, she claimed, was incomplete. Though angry at the unjust ruling, Hercules pressed on, knowing that more labors awaited him. The Hydra was defeated, but his path to redemption was far from over. Labor 3. Capture the Ceryneian Hind. After facing the ferocious Nemean Lion and the deadly Hydra, Hercules was given a seemingly gentler task, one that appeared more peaceful but was far trickier than it seemed. King Eurystheus ordered him to capture the Ceryneian Hind, a magnificent golden-horned deer sacred to the goddess Artemis. Unlike his previous labors, this one required Hercules to show restraint, for if he harmed the creature, he would risk incurring the wrath of Artemis herself. The Ceryneian Hind was said to be swift beyond measure, capable of outrunning even an arrow in flight. It lived deep in the forest of Arcadia, where it roamed freely and was rarely seen by mortals. Capturing it alive without causing harm was a task many believed impossible. Hercules journeyed to Arcadia, where ancient forests stretched endlessly over hills and valleys. Days turned into weeks as he searched for the elusive creature. He followed hoofprints, caught glimpses of golden antlers glinting in the sunlight, but the hind was always too quick, vanishing before he could get close. Determined not to give up, Hercules continued his pursuit tirelessly. He tracked the hind across rivers, through dense woods, and up rocky hillsides. He remained patient, knowing that brute force would not help him here. Only endurance and cleverness would lead to victory. At dawn, on the first day of the 4th month in the forest, Hercules finally saw his chance. The hind had stopped by a stream to drink. Hercules moved silently, his steps careful and measured. He knew he could not risk injuring the sacred animal. With unmatched precision, he crept closer, holding his breath. Just as he was within reach, the hind sensed his presence and bolted. But Hercules, quick as lightning, lunged forward and caught the creature by its antlers. The hind thrashed wildly, but Hercules held firm, using all his strength to prevent it from escaping without causing harm. As Hercules restrained the hind, a brilliant light enveloped the forest. From the glow emerged Artemis, radiant and imposing, accompanied by her twin brother Apollo. Her eyes blazed with anger as she saw Hercules holding her sacred animal. "Mortal, what gives you the right to lay hands on my hind?" Artemis demanded, her voice echoing through the trees. Hercules bowed respectfully, careful not to show any defiance. "Great goddess, I mean no harm. I was commanded by King Eurystheus to capture this hind. I wish only to complete my task, and I will return it to you unharmed." Artemis regarded him for a long moment, her expression softening slightly. She knew of his labors and the unjust penance he had been forced to endure. Apollo, ever the voice of reason, spoke next. "Sister, he speaks the truth. Let him complete this task, for he has shown respect to your sacred creature." Reluctantly, Artemis agreed. "Very well, Hercules, but remember your promise. Once you have shown the hind to Eurystheus, you must release it back to the wild unharmed." Hercules swore by the river Styx, the most solemn of oaths, that he would do as she commanded. Carrying the Ceryneian hind on his shoulders, Hercules made his way back to Tiryns. When he arrived, Eurystheus was amazed at the sight of the golden-horned deer. He ordered Hercules to hand it over, intending to keep the sacred creature as a prize. But Hercules, bound by his oath, had other plans. As soon as Eurystheus approached, Hercules loosened his grip, allowing the hind to escape. The creature bolted back towards the forest, too swift for anyone to catch. Furious, Eurystheus berated Hercules. But there was nothing he could do. Hercules had completed the task exactly as ordered. Thus, the third labor was finished, and Hercules continued his path towards redemption, knowing that the next task would be even more daunting.